What's going on? I came from Chilltown.
What's up, bro? Hakeem, it's good to talk to you, man. I know you listen all the time. This is the first
Yeah,
time
good
the
to be on
listeners
here.
in a
What's
long
going
time
on?
got a chance to actually hear your voice, brother. I know you listening. Give me what your opinion is, bro.
Uh-huh.
We
All
know
right.
we know you listening. What
Ray
you want
Rice
to get
was
in?
back with that chick from the basketball team, Rutgers female basketball team. When not to hate to bring it up again, but when Don Imus had called them nappy-headed hoes,
Yes.
he was messing with one of them, the point guard, the starting point guard. You go back, you look at the tape, and you can see that because she always shouting him out. Look out for my man Ray Rice, after the game's on camera or whatever.
Right.
And Alexander did not fire 2 shots into the ceiling. She went into the garage, got the gun, came back, fired 2 shots at him. They bounced off of something in the ceiling. That's why she was convicted.
That's not the way I know it, but I'll look at it like this.
But because you only hear what's in the media that she fired 2 bullets into the ceiling.
Okay,
but
now
if
do
you
you
look at the evidence of the case is public record. She did not fire 2 bullets into the ceiling. The
Okay.
bullets hit something. She left the house to go get her gun. That's why she can't use the stand your ground defense, because she left the house. She was no longer in harm's way.
Okay, but don't
She
you
went
get
to
it?
the
Don't you
garage to
don't
get
you
the gun.
don't you have an opportunity to stand your ground where you at, where somebody is there threatening you?
Okay, yes, but she did not do that. She left the house.
Okay, she
She could have
left,
left the house.
but that's
She
her
left the
house.
So therefore, the stand your ground defense is no longer applicable to her.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I disagree with that because we got a known abuser who came to the house to attack her. She's not allowed to stand her ground in her house where she lives. She has to leave her house where he came to attack her.
House. She was no longer in danger. She came back to the house with the gun.
Yeah, at her house. Her
Yeah,
house.
okay. So stand your ground. You can't go leave and go get a brick, go get a knife, go get a gun, come back and say I'm standing my ground. Once you leave, you're no longer in danger.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I understand that, and I will go and I'll have to check the facts to make sure that you and I are on the same page with them. My understanding is not quite the way we're getting it right now, and that's fine. We can agree to disagree on that one, or we don't agree to disagree if we're talking facts. If you're right, I'll come on the air and say that I'm wrong. But here's the deal. Let me ask you this about that case, because that case to me is the epitome of a domestic violence case when there's history of this person who has been attacking her, and we look at the way that someone like Ray Rice is being vilified. I'm not going to defend him. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But when I look at the National Organization for Women and how they're making a point to point out how terrible a person Ray Rice is, and Roger Goodell is terrible because he's not doing more when he should have seen the video before and all of this kind of stuff. And you got all of these women's rights groups, on one side of it, and then as Big Rube suggested earlier, you've got women showing up at games with Ray Rice jerseys on. How do we reconcile those two images?
Well, you know what? I agree with I'll take a stand with the National Organization for Women, for one reason, because if there are only male players inside of the NFL. A lot of men and little boys grow up and they want to be NFL players. They idolize these men. So if the NFL won't take a stand against its players putting their hands on women, how can you say to a little boy or to a little boy growing up that it's okay for your idol to put his hands on a woman with no repercussions, and for that to have an effect on them? If you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
These little boys look up to them, so you got to say if they punish their idols for putting their hands on women, you can't what better picture you have to get to a little boy growing up.
No,
about how and why they should respect women and not put their hands on women.
I got you there. I'm not going to debate you there, but I can tell you this: I think I've seen a lot and I've watched a lot and I study the media. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not familiar with the National Organization of Women until this particular case. Other folks may have been, and that's good for them. I can speak for myself. I have not been acquainted with this organization until this particular case. And so when I see women all the time, I bet you if we went on the internet right now and we did some studies, and we don't have time for it now, but if we had time, we did some studies, we can find the instances of domestic violence, men against women, are very high. It happens a lot, multiple times a day across our country. And so, how many of those cases have they brought to the forefront? I'm sure there's some of them that would be that would kind of boost their status, for lack of a better term, if you brought those details to the national forefront. But they choose the National Football League player who, like I said, I mean, nobody's going to defend Ray Rice. He deserves whatever it is he's getting. But this is just odd to me that all of a sudden we hear this group and they're making all of this noise now. To that you say what?
I totally agree with you, but I don't blame them for seizing this opportunity because women get beat up so much in this country and all around the world. Men step on them, they don't give them the rights or the respect that they deserve, and the NFL should never have given them this opportunity to seize the stage. And so I'm happy that they are stepping out. I never heard about them, but I'm sure a lot of people hear about them now, and that's good because they are standing up for something that's admirable. Right. That's something that needs awareness.
Right. I'm going to change directions, Hawk, and I want to keep you on the line because I want to get your opinion on this next thing that I want to get into. Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson, we know, is the running back for the Minnesota Vikings. Over the last couple of days, there has been allegations of him beating his 4-year-old child. There's been photographs of the child with whelps on his body, little boy, whelps on his body. Adrian Peterson was indicted for, I can't remember the specific charge, but basically for beating up the kid. Apparently this happened, I believe, back in May in Texas. The kid is from Minnesota, where Adrian Peterson plays. Obviously, we know the Vikings took the proactive direction of deactivating him for yesterday's game. We also know that they reactivated him for next week's game. But the reason why I bring this up and how I want to pose this question to you, Hakeem, is this particular case is bringing to the forefront the phrase whippings. And I heard some folks say today they never even heard the word whippings when it comes to children. Beatings, getting a switch, things of that sort. What's your opinion on, I don't know if beating a child is the right word or spanking might be better. Adrian Peterson, the floor is yours to go with this in any direction you choose.
I don't agree with beating children. I think, we beat children because that's something that we learn to do, our parents do, and some people, they justify, say, well, my parents beat me. That's just because I think our parents didn't know how to discipline us because that's how they were disciplined. And that's because older generations didn't understand the developmental psychology of a child. And plus, a lot of parents just don't have patience to deal with a child. Children don't know. Children learn, they imitate what they see. A 4-year-old boy does not know that he should not push somebody off, from a video game that could cause serious body harm. So you explain to the child, that what you was doing is wrong and, the possible repercussions. And, beating a child, they don't understand the consequences of that. Well, I'm sorry, they will. But that is not the proper way. I don't think that that's the proper way to discipline a child. And I think we do that because we don't know how to, like I said, discipline them better. But if we understood the developmental psychology of a child, we would see that they process things differently. They can't understand things and the implications of their actions as well as adults do.
Now,
I don't agree with anybody beating children.
Some would say this. Some would say, "Hey, I grew up in the South. That's how my parents disciplined me." I heard one brother calling a talk show that I was listening to today talked about how he beat his son. Now his son wasn't 4 years old, and you got no argument from me on a 4-year-old. In the interest of full disclosure, I would pop a kid. I popped Mama J when I felt like she needed to get popped. Nothing like what we saw with Adrian Peterson's kid. I got popped when I was a kid if I needed to get popped. But you had a guy that I heard on the radio today that said, would you rather me beat my kid, or would you rather the police department have to take him in and they deal with them? To that you say what? And before you answer that, you and I, we grew up in the same hood, and we see what's going on with them kids right now, Jersey City, New Jersey. I think if some of them kids got their ass beat at home, they wouldn't be getting into some of the trouble they're getting into in the street. To that you say what?
And I don't think that that's necessarily true, because we all know that crime why people choose to lead a life of crime is not because they didn't have a good upbringing. They do that because of social and economic implications. And, and the studies will say that. I know a lot of people who suffered way worse, more penalties than I did. But look at me, I'm all good now. They doing 10, 20 years in prison, and they got worse beatings than I did. They were always on punishment, never had any privileges.
Right.
My parents beat me, and I just knew, but that didn't stop me from doing what I was doing. I knew that I did not want to grow up and lead the life of the people who were in my community and surroundings. Right. So beating is not necessarily a deterrent.
Now, when we say beating, because Joy is listening to us, she said that spanking is discipline, okay, but bruising is crazy, which I tend to agree with that. I think that corporal punishment, I have no problem with it. And I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but I'm sure, there were folks in other demographics that got some spankings. And I wouldn't endorse what Adrian Peterson did, but I don't have a problem with the spanking. So are you saying that you have a problem with all forms of corporal punishment? Just basically don't put your hands on the kid at all?
Nah, don't. Yeah, no. You don't have to lay your hands on your child. When I raised my brothers, I didn't put my hands on them. I made them do punishment. I made them stand up in a corner and do a squat until they couldn't stand anymore, and they turned out all right. I never put my hands on my girls. And look at them. One of them, she graduated college. She got a nice job. My other girl, she an honor student and started her first year in high school.
Right.
And we don't have to put my hands on them. Their mother didn't have to put her hands on them either. We talked to them. We tried to make them understand the implications of their actions and the consequences of their actions. And you just raise them to be responsible and respectable children.
Hakeem, this is Big Roo. What's going on, man?
Yeah.
Hey,
Joe,
look.
what's up with you, man?
Not much. Now, for someone who works with children on a daily basis, actually, the interesting part about what you said kind of struck me. Did you know that making children do squats is considered abuse? They can make that could be considered child abuse if you make children do squats or stand on their toes or whatever like that. Make them do anything physical to the point where they cannot physically do anything afterwards. These days in this world, that is also considered child abuse. I noticed. I know it's crazy, and I probably just blew your mind with that. But working with children and stuff like that, I'm very familiar with child abuse laws and things of that such. And I know it's a little bit off the Adrian Peterson thing, but literally these days, if you touch a child or you make a child do a physical act in which they are not physically inclined to do so, and it causes them pain of some sort, that can be considered child abuse. And I mean, I know it's crazy. I just want to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, no, you know what? I didn't know that, but still, what I did was an alternative. I didn't have to go get a stick or a broom or a belt or an iron and beat my brothers or my daughters. Also, and I don't think that, with the Adrian Peterson thing, I don't think that they saying that he couldn't punish, spank, or beat his child. He beat his child so severely that he caused open wounds on him. And if you're going to tell me that that's not child abuse, then something is wrong with you. A 4-year-old.
I definitely would agree with that. I think even if you ask Adrian Peterson today, Ruben and Hakeem, I think even if you asked him, you would agree that he went too far, and the excuse of that's how I was raised is inappropriate, as far as I'm concerned, largely because the child is 4 years old. If you're dealing with an 8-year-old, you're going to discipline an 8-year-old different than you would a 4-year-old. You're going to discipline a 12-year-old differently than you would discipline an 8-year-old, and so on. And I think that might be the piece that we all may be missing. We can all agree to disagree on whether corporal punishment is something that's appropriate or not. And even before Big Rube jumped in, Hakeem, I was thinking to myself, like, Hakeem, you making the kids do squats. That's kind of corporal punishment. You're not spanking them, but they feeling it physically. And to me, physical, I guess physical pain or physical discipline is a form of corporal punishment. We can agree to disagree on the actual method, but I think when we look at what Adrian Peterson did, I think he went way too far. And I also think, and you know, obviously I know how old you are because we grew up together, Hawk, and Ruben is the same age as us. If you look at people in our general age group, particularly those in the South, a lot of us got that ass with extension cords and with switches and all that. I wasn't one of them. I didn't get beat up like that. That's not how it went down in the J household. But it's something that we all grew up with, and I think those of us who are looking at this with our eyes like, oh, my God, I can't believe he did that. I hope you're only looking at that because of the kid's age and not the method, because you're not going to be someone, I'm not speaking to you, Hawk, I'm just speaking in general, you're not going to be somebody that act like you don't know that this goes down. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And, you know, I didn't think that it was corporal punishment. You know, I'll evaluate that, you know, look at it differently. But, you know, what does pop up in my mind right now, I remember playing football, playing sports. Like, if you drop a pass, then the coach made you do push-ups. Is that corporal punishment also?
I think that it probably is. If we're using the definition that we are looking to define now, I would guess that matter of fact, I'm not even going to play the game. Yeah, that's corporal punishment, but I ain't got no problem with it personally. You know, I played baseball up through high school. I didn't play football. I played baseball, and I remember having to do, wind sprints, kind of like they do in basketball. You'd make you, instead of running, the length of the quarter, half quarter, whatever, we used to have to run the bases full speed if we did something that was crazy or inappropriate. That's a form of corporal punishment. Is it something that benefits you? Absolutely, because whatever it was you did that caused the coach to make you do that, you ain't going to do it. You probably ain't going to do it no more. You're just going to try not to. So, that's what it is. Ain't no half stepping on Marcus J. Hawk, I appreciate you calling in, brother. I know we talked about having you jump in on with us many times in the past. I'm glad we had an opportunity to get you in. Keep on listening. If you hear something else that kind of makes you want to jump in, feel free. You're welcome here on these airways any single time you feel like getting in.
All right, cool. We'll do. Thanks for having me.
All right, you got it, brother. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. That's my brother Hakeem. Known that brother for a long time. Got a lot of love for him. Grew up together in Jersey City, New Jersey. Big Rope. We talked a little bit about corporal punishment. We talked a little bit about Adrian Peterson. Hakeem and I kind of went back and forth with regards to spanking, beating, whooping. You didn't give your opinion on that. Jump in with your thoughts.
I mean, growing up, I got spankings, I got whoopings. I mean, I had to go get my switch, I had a couple belt beatings, One thing my parents, I love my parents. One thing they never did to me, and if I ever have any children, I'm never going to do to my children, and really it's something that affects me negatively, is they never, ever, ever hit me in the face, ever. And for me right now, that getting hit in the face is a immediate sign of disrespect. So, like, if you hit me in the face, you're not going to get the happy, oh, that was funny. You're going to get the, ooh, this the black man right here. What's going on? He about to change on him to the Hulk or something. Because I don't appreciate that. I would never hit anybody else in the face in that manner, nor will I, hit a child in the face. And that's, to me, that's the worst. As far as the whole thing, I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, somebody beat the kid bad. If it was him, it was him. Left whelps. I mean, I remember getting switch beats, and I got whelps too. I don't remember to this point if they ever bled or anything like that, but, I mean, I never went to the hospital. But I do think your point is value when you said, I think it's more about the age than the act. If the child was 8 or something like that, be completely different. But because the child is 4, you can, if you're gonna beat a child, or discipline a child, you can't do it but for so long physically. But yeah, did he cross a line? Clearly, because there's some pictures.
Right.
I have not seen the pictures. I mean, do I think he's a child abuser? No. I just...
Is he a child? Is Ray Rice a woman beater? I mean, and I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Because the reason why I asked you that is because you have a lot of people who are putting these labels on people for alleged one-time offenses. So a one-time offense, are you now known, Ray Rice, for the rest of your life as a woman beater? Adrian Peterson, are you now known as a child beater for the rest of your life?
And that's a very good point. We don't know.
I don't have an answer to this question.
Yeah, we don't know in Adrian Peterson. Obviously, Adrian Peterson has beat his child before. Now to this extent, probably not. Because obviously mom was like, yo, I think you touched on him a little too much. And he probably said, whatever. And she's like, yo, this ain't cool. I'm going to the doctor. And then a doctor's doctor's a responder. This looks like child abuse. He's got to report it. He or she's got to report it. Ray Rice, I will say this, by looking at the video, which I finally have done, it looked like that was not their first rodeo.
And it's funny that you say that because I've been debating people on that very, very point since last Monday when we saw that video. And I'm it's funny. I'm usually a lot more definitive in my opinions. When I first saw that, I was like, "There's no way that's the first time he did that. There's no way."
Well, it may be the first time that he actually punched her.
It went in like that.
Yeah, but I don't. There's no doubt in my mind
that they had
this
altercation.
rodeo has happened before.
Something like that.
And maybe he walked away. He could walk away, but in the elevator, he could not walk away.
Right.
In which, at that point in time, she, the decision was made by her to continue and by him to finish it.
All right. Let me ask you this question: can a woman provoke a man? Because, and here's why I'm asking you that question. That question is what got Stephen A. Smith in a whole lot of trouble. He got suspended for a week. He ended up leaving his ESPN New York radio gig because of those comments. He ended up, of course, somewhere else. I'm not going to boost them up. They need to be boosting us up. But I'll boost up the station he used to be on. He ain't on there no more.
Yeah.
But he ended up losing his radio gig in New York, which is his hometown, based on him saying that it's possible for a woman to provoke a man. Now, I'm going to ask you your opinion. Do you think that it's possible? Because I have been on record. I stated what I think about this when that story came up, and I'll state it again after you.
I think it's possible for people to provoke people. I mean, it's one of those things. I think when you start putting a male-female dynamic on it, I think you're getting to a gray area in which it's like, well, everybody says that she can't physically, do whatever to you, whatever. Or, basically it's one of those things where it's like she, she can't provoke a man because she's not bigger than a man and all this other stuff. It becomes a physical thing. But, just like anybody else, I can say the right thing that'll get your juices flowing. I can say the right thing that'll get you upset real quick, and everything. I mean, it's one of those things where, honestly, can a woman provoke a man? I say a woman can provoke a man just like a man can provoke a woman, just like a man can provoke a man, just like a woman can provoke a woman.
Right.
I don't think it's a situation in which you have to put gender to it, because there are some people who get on your nerves,
right,
and some of them your friends, and they say the wrong thing. Oh man, you ain't trying to be dealing with them no more.
No, I can dig it.
And and sometimes, in relationships, when you get to a point, when you start learning about the other, there's things that you learn about the other that if you say this in this way or this thing, that will just raise the anger of the other person, or just raise that level to the point where you wanted to be at, so they're upset at you.
Right.
And I mean, perfect example. I know everybody's got this. I love my mom to death, but man, you talking about somebody who can take you from 0 to 60? Mother can take you from 0 to 60 real quick. I hope you're not gonna hit your moms, but once they get to know you, once people get to know you in a certain setting, and they know what really just gets your goat, and they want to get your goat, they'll just pull it out and be like, blam.
Yeah.
And then you just go from 0 to 60.
Well, that's the essence of what provocation is. And I think where people get it messed up is provocation doesn't always mean action at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I feel provoked all the time. Every time somebody cuts me off, I feel provoked. Every time somebody cusses me out, which I get cussed out far more than I cuss other people out. Trust me.
Of course.
I feel provoked. You know, Mrs. J provokes me. Mama J provokes me. Big Rube provokes me.
All day,
But
every day.
doesn't mean that I got to go and start slapping folks around. That's not what provocation is about, because you got to have the kind of self restraint that keeps you from stepping outside your character. And I think when you look at what went on in that elevator, you know, it's hard for me to, anytime a man drops a woman like that, you can't justify that. There's no way. Did she provoke him? Probably, because you don't know what went on in the floor at a casino. That's the one video we ain't seen. We saw them walking from the casino.
And they said something happened down there.
Well, obviously, you don't get all dressed up and smell good and got on your Sunday best to go out just so that you can end up in an elevator fight. No, of course. She said something or he said something. They provoked each other. Something went down on that casino floor. It just did. I think we'd be disingenuous and naive to assume that nothing went down on that casino floor, because when you saw them walking towards the elevator, they was already jawing at each other. They was already getting into it. She said something that, you know, you ain't gonna just spit on somebody because you just got extra saliva. You gonna have a reason. You gonna just you don't just spit on. He spat on her. He spat on her.
You know how mad you got to be to spit
You
on somebody?
gotta really, yeah, man. You said don't put your hands on your face. I got you on that, but right below, don't put your hands on my face.
It's spit.
Is don't freaking spit on me.
Yeah.
That's like real.
That's disrespectful.
Yeah,
for
that's
real.
that's crazy. Ain't no how stepping with Marcus J. 804-402-2893 is the number to dial to be down with us. We are, in fact, the flagship show of Legacy Internet Radio. Thank you to everybody that's listening to us on TuneIn, and thank you to everybody that's listening to us during our replays on YouTube. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and introduce my co-host who just joined us in the building. I got my sister. She's here. I got S.Y. Butler. What's up, baby?
Hello, darling.
How you doing?
I am wonderful.
You're-
I'm so happy.
You're always happy, but this time you got to tell me why.
I'm happy because Ruben is here, and I'm extremely happy that out of all the things that provoke you, SY was not one of them that came out of your mouth.
That's just because I didn't get to you.
No, it's not. It's too late now. There's no backseas.
Okay. I
I
mean,
did
I mean,
not-
if you want me to make it plain, I mean,
If you want to say it, just
you
to
be
add
tap
it
dance
in.
kidding on my last nerve sometimes, just like everybody else. I'm
Well,
an
if you
old
wanna go ahead and
grumpy
say
guy.
that
I'm a grumpy
at the
dude.
last
Everybody
minute.
provokes me.
Because I already said
Look
that
at
you
you.
didn't.
You feeling
You
like
can go
left.
ahead.
She's feeling left out because I didn't say she provokes me.
No,
Think about
I'm
that.
not.
I feel provoked now.
What, you want to hit me?
Hell no.
See, that shit won't even funny.
Yeah, man.
That's disrespectful.
You know what I mean?
He started it.
I'm
He
on
said
a,
he-
hey, look, I'm on an
he said
epic
he
rant.
felt provoked.
I'm on an epic rant, and here she goes. She had to make it. It ain't even fun no
He
more.
said he felt provoked.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you ain't had to be like, what are you gonna do? Hit me?
I want to make
since
sure
we-
so I could run.
Since we on the subject, first of all, our sister Michelle K is checking in. Everybody
What's up,
say peace to
Michelle?
Michelle. Listen, that's why. Give me your opinion on the subject. I mean, we know you just came in on the tail end of it, and we're talking about Adrian Peterson, who beat his child to the point where he left whelps on a 4-year-old. So we talked about that, and we've also talked about Adrian Peterson and domestic violence at length. And those are the two subjects at hand. Before we finish this subject, there's one more angle that I want to take. But before we do that, I want your opinion on either of those two or both of them. What's your thoughts?
Now, you said there was more to him. I only heard about the child, but there was other
No.
issues with
There's
him?
Adrian Peterson. I said there's more that I'm going to get to in
Oh,
this
okay.
segment.
Well,
But Adrian Peterson beating his child or Ray Rice beating his lady, those basically are the jump off type of stories that
Jump
lead
off.
us to y'all got dirty minds. Jump off stories that lead us to bigger issues, one being domestic violence and the other being child abuse.
okay.
And so that is kind of the essence of why I've brought these two stories to our listeners. To that, you say what?
Well, I'm going to speak on the child because the child is the helpless one here. I understand. Did you speak about the letter that he wrote too?
I didn't. I saw the letter.
Okay. Well,
I mean, I guess I could introduce it, but I chose
okay,
not
chose
to.
not to.
He's,
Okay.
he's apologizing, but he's saying he's not a child beater, essentially.
Okay, and I can understand him wanting to discipline his son. I can understand him wanting to apply whatever punishment he deems necessary, depending on what this 4-year-old has done. I don't agree with hitting a 4-year-old with a switch. And, you know, the first hit alone would have shown the first whelp on the child. So he had to be really, really mad to hit that child with a switch and not even pay attention to what he was doing. I can understand, you know, you wanting to, you know, punish him for whatever it was he did, and he thinks that the punishment that he received as he was growing up is a punishment that he would administer to his children, but I can't see doing that to a 4-year-old. So I think, I don't know if I would say child abuse, because I can understand you being angry and or being mad and, you know, again, wanting to discipline the child, but I definitely don't agree with the switch.
You know how stepping with Marcus J. Here's the other piece that I wanted to introduce, because obviously the National Football League is under fire with all of these instances of violent acts, criminal acts committed by these players, whether they be DUIs, domestic violence, beating your children, just basically wilding out, for lack of a better term. And you've got all of these people that are coming out saying they need to do something about the NFL players. The NFL players are acting crazy. They're taking the violence from the field onto or off the field, I should say. What are we going to do? It's a huge problem. I did find a story on the New York Times. I actually need to cite my source. I got this from Mr. LP Steven Sykes, who hosts Enliven Radio right here on Legacy Internet Radio every single Tuesday from 7 to 9. He and I debated some of the details found here, and I won't get into this whole article here, but basically what it says is one NFL player in 40 is arrested in any given year. There are 32 teams, 53 players on a roster, plus another 8 on his practice squad, plus more players who show up for training camp but don't make the team. Thus, over the nearly 15 years that USA Today data goes back, 713 arrests. Basically means that's 2.53% of the players have had serious run-ins with the law in an average year. As bad as that may sound, it is actually lower than the national rate for men in a similar age range. So for everybody who wants to make the NFL out to be the league of the criminals and the league of all of these people who can't seem to keep themselves under control, they've got a 15-year study that basically says that for the most part, they act crazy, but you're going to hear about dumbass Plaxico shooting himself, and you're going to hear about Michael Vick, who financed a dogfighting ring, and you're going to hear about Ben Roethlisberger, who did a whole bunch of stuff that he don't really catch a lot of heat for. I wonder what that's about. And you're going to hear about Ray Rice and Adrian Peterson and others. So, Big Roo, when I read a statistic like that, and you see that the incident level is actually lower than the national average, based on what other folks are saying about the National Football League, what does that say? What does that inspire you to say?
Ambulance chasing?
It's radio. You got to talk, man.
I mean, I don't know. It's like I feel like, and this is about to be real controversial. But
shocker.
And I'm not saying that sports players are perfect people. I guess what I'm saying is I feel like that they are, like, some groups are not doing their due diligence everywhere and only doing it when it helps them. Because, like you said about the woman in Florida who, you know, was trying to get her abuser out the house. You know, she got arrested for shooting in the ceiling or whatever the situation is. You know, the situation years ago with, I mean, I know people have seen the movie The Burning Bed.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the things, you know, she said, yeah, I'd rather go to jail than live with this dude another day. You know, and there's nobody there to help those people. So I guess I feel like that, you know, this women's group, great. I'm glad they exist. How come this is the first time I'm hearing about you?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
all these other groups. We're screaming these players are bad, yet, you're willing to sue them for their money, and you're willing to put them on public notice to embarrass them and things of that such. I mean, I'm trying to figure out where is the line? If you're gonna put your face out there for the people who you can put your face out there for, what about everybody else?
I can dig it. Ain't no hashtag one Marcus J. We're going to take our first break of the night. And when we come back, I got my co-host here, Miss S.Y. Butler. She's going to lead us in her segment as she does every single week. She either gives us a tease or she don't. She makes faces at me and says, I'm not going to give a tease. I don't know what she going to do, but I want to see if she's willing to give you something this week. Dear co-host of mine, are they going to get a tease?
Well, I'll say this.
Nope, keep moving.
Hush up, Ruben. Remember when Mommy told you to brush your teeth?
Yeah.
Remember when the dentist told you to brush your teeth after every meal and don't forget to floss?
Yeah.
Don't forget.
I be flossing, son.
You be flossing,
I
baby.
be flossing, son.
a
Ain't no
Lord.
Steppin with Marcus J. All right, we're going to take our break, and when we come back, SY is going to tell us what that tease was all about. I got Big Rube and SY. And you know, I Steppin with Marcus J. Be back in a few minutes.